Okay, so last week I managed to get a 327 in Corneria. We're gonna look over that. I already did like one of these where I looked over my 324, but I ended up over-explaining a lot. The VOD was way too long, and I developed some better strats since then, so it's kind of obsolete anyways. So we're gonna look at this one. Starting off, I want to make a point that it's possible to get a +1 on literally every enemy in Corneria. One shot in particular is like almost TAS-level if you want to be consistent with it. Like, it's doable, but for consistency's sake, I'm not doing it in these runs. So let's start off with the first few shots. This one, a lot of people use this strat. You just don't move, and then you fire a charge shot right as this ship is crossing the top of the text box. That'll +1 every time. And then you fire your second shot when these two are crossing the line where your ship's engine is. It's right there. You can do it a little earlier like I did there, but that gives you a rough window for where to shoot. Here, basically, in my brain, I draw a line, a straight line between these two, and use that as a base of a triangle, and make sure this shot hits right in between the two. And you can take a handful of shots here. If the first one misses, you can just keep going, and I've managed to hit it on like the 4th or 5th shot before, and it's still fine. After that, you want to make sure, before you break, you want to make sure that these are visible. Make sure they've spawned in. And then I full break. Then I let the break meter recharge. And then let it go down like a 1/4 to a 1/3 and shoot. And that gets a +5. Another option, Adam does this. He'll full break and go to the top of the screen, so he doesn't need to wait for the break meter to recharge. It's a little bit faster. I think it's a little bit harder to pull off, but it's still pretty consistent. And then here, I just shoot that bogey out of spite, because you can't kill him here. And Slippy comes through, and then I have a cue I use, because I want to make sure Slippy ends up in front of me instead of over to the side over here. So you have to wait till Slippy is turning left before you kill this guy. So my audio cue, I wait until that shot hits Slippy from this bogey here, and then I'll wait just a beat after that and shoot one. Then shoot straight down, kills that bogey, and Slippy will be turning. He ends up in front of me. Then I whittle him down to about here. Basically, I get to the line between the yellow and the orange, and that's where I leave him. You can kill him here if you're more comfortable with that. This is all about strats for Meteo. What you do to Slippy here doesn't really affect your score in Corneria as such. And then here, I have my own rhythm. I get this first guy and the second guy by themselves. And then on the third guy, I wait and get both of these as the second guy is swooping down. And the third guy, or 5th guy rather. Bleh. And I'm also aiming at like the top of these little miniature hills here, because it's a good reference point, but also it's closer to where the ships are flying, so it's going to be more consistent that way. Here, my timing cue for this, I'll wait till Falco says horrible, and when he says horrible, I'll shoot the first shot, and then the second shot I'll shoot at the base of this tower, and it gets a +4 almost every time. To wait a beat, give myself just enough time to scoot over to the right, and then I'll shoot up roughly under the arch of this T-shaped building. And it doesn't have to be super precise as long as it's like in this zone and you get the right timing. It'll kill that guy, and then pretty much immediately after you can shoot across the middle. And again, the aim doesn't matter so much here as the timing, because he's swooping across to the left, so there's a lot of spacing that'll still kill him. So as long as you time that right, it's fine. And this next shot, it's easy to get in a rush, so I try to make sure and wait a bit before I shoot that one to the left. Because if you shoot it too early, it's just not going to hit him at all. But with the timing I use, you're pretty much shooting straight at him, and it explodes in front of him instead of beside him. And then, so I shoot another shot there, mostly as it's partially as a timing thing and partially because there's a chance it'll hit him. I would probably have to shoot a little bit higher for it to hit this guy, but it doesn't really matter because the next shot can still catch him. The important thing in terms of timing is I shoot that second shot immediately after, and as it's exploding on the building, I start braking. And I full brake, just hold the brake down the entire time, and then I shoot pretty much when Peppy says everybody, like the very first part of that vowel is when I shoot that shot. So shoot there, shoot again, full break, shoot there. And I shoot it roughly over this blue road. And that, yeah, it lines up almost perfectly every time. It's just a little bit to the right of the road because this guy's swooping that way and this guy's swooping that way, and they usually line up right there when the shot comes by. And it explodes on its own. You don't have to shoot the ground. That's what makes this shot easier and more consistent, in my opinion. You don't have to worry about shooting the ground to make that one work. You just shoot it straight ahead, and if you full braked there and you have the right timing, it works pretty much every time. And then after that shot, you take an immediate shot to the right, just like this one over here. It's going to explode in front of him if you're using this timing, so you can shoot straight at him instead of trying to hit a building or something. And then usually one of these guys will get left behind, so just clean him up there, and then we're to the arch. This is a blind shot, so it took me a while to get this consistent, but it can be consistent. So I usually shoot right around here, I think. You fly all the way to the ground, get at the ground, and then snap up and shoot right before you pass through the shadow of this arch here. And my target, if you can see this building in the back left here, I want to shoot slightly above that building. It's hard to see on the YouTube video, but I can see it on my own screen when I'm playing. Yeah, it's very faint, but it's like right there. But I want to shoot above that building. And again, that's a distant shot, so if you have the right timing and you're roughly in the right spot, it should work. You want it to be a +3, 3 enemies that you're killing here. Yeah, you can kind of see the explosion here. You have the moth here, there was a moth here, and then there's one of these guys that was swooping over from the right to the left. You can kind of see his trail of smoke, but those 3 are the ones you're trying to hit. So that's 6 points. If you get a +2, it's going to be either 5 or 4 points. Like I said, it's a blind shot. It's hard to hit at first, but it can be made consistent. And then here, I do something different from a lot of other people. Most people I see will first try to shoot at these 4 and then shoot over to the right. I actually found, for me at least, it's much more consistent to just shoot to the guy on the right immediately. For 2 reasons. One, because there's a building here, you can kind of just throw the shot and it'll hit as long as it's not too high. Also, because this guy's a flying saucer, he falls very slowly. So if you kill him too late, there's always a chance he'll despawn before crashing. So taking that shot first makes sure he doesn't despawn on you. And again, to me, that shot just seems really easy and consistent. And then on top of that, killing him first gives me time to get indirect kills on all 4 of these guys. The bottom one will split off from these 3, so you have to kill him first. Otherwise, he'll be too far away to get anything off of him while you're trying to kill all the other stuff. What I found to be most consistent is to try and fly low and shoot at this little curve in the road. And the nice thing is this road has a little bit of a lip to it, so you don't have to be super precise. As long as you're close, the lip will usually catch it, and it'll explode at just the right spot to catch that guy on the bottom. Now, this shot, it's really cool. When I tried this, I got it first try, and then it took me forever to get it again. But one of the reasons it's so hard is because you have to make sure these guys line up correctly. And to do that, you have to break in a very specific way. It's very possible for them to be too far in front or too far behind this as they're swinging left. So you kind of have to manipulate their movements with your braking. So the way I do that is as soon as I shoot this shot over on the right, this blindish shot at the floater right there, as soon as I shoot that, I hit the brake, but I only go about a quarter of the way down. So a quarter brake as soon as I shoot that shot, and then that seems to line up very consistently for this shot up here. Now I got the +3 this time. It's also very possible to get a +2 because it'll miss one of these 3. This shot is kind of precise. The key, I would say, is to shoot at the top because there is a cleanup option if you miss the one on the bottom. If you miss the one on the top, he's basically gone. You could try to laser him, but you're not going to get a +1 on this top one. There's no backup for that. But if you shoot high and you happen to catch just these 2, you can catch this bottom one along with this swooper here as the bottom one is going off to the right. Ideally, you want the +3, but a +2 on the top 2 is okay as well. So right after that shot, you shoot down at this little hill here. And this guy is swooping down from up here, and that will usually catch him if you if you're quick enough. On my 324, I did something crazy where like I tried to do these two and then catch this guy up here as he's spawning. One, that's way harder than this strat, and two, there's the risk of this guy despawning because you kill him so high, he's just gonna keep sailing up at the top of the screen, and the odds are very low that he's gonna crash. Whereas here, because you're killing him close to the ground, he crashes almost immediately most of the time. So there's less risk of losing a point off the despawn with this strat on top of it being easier. The next hard part about this strat is you have to make sure to get over to this building here because you're going all the way to the left of the screen to catch that +3 and the one on the ground. And then you have to make it all the way back across. I think I start braking as soon as I take the shot. Yeah, I shoot and then hit brake at the same time, and then I just hold the brake down. That lines up for this, but also gives me enough time to get over here. This right here is the only direct hit I intentionally go for in my routing currently. I do have a way of getting a +3, but for consistency, it's safest just to take the shot here. You can lock onto these, but if you do lock on, it's a bit slower, which gives you less time to get +1s on the mech. So I would say learning to shoot this directly with an unlocked shot is worth about 1 point because you get more time to shoot the mechs. So you shoot those two, then my timing when I'm going for this strat is I take 1, 2 shots in the mech, then 1 up there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. The braking is also very important here because if you just hold brake, it's not going to line up right and you're not going to get quite as much braking in as you could. So I hold here, and then by the second shot, when I release the second shot, I'll let go of brake. So basically I get a quarter brake and then a full brake. But you have to do the quarter brake first or else the brake meter is going to take way too long to recharge. So yeah, quarter brake, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For this guy back here, I would say the shot isn't too terribly hard, but it changes depending on how you do your mechs. So I would definitely say focus on the mech first and develop your strategy and then figure out which shot lines up where. It is worth exactly 1 extra point because shooting this shot back here takes roughly the same amount of time as shooting 1 shot at the mech. Basically, I could opt to take 7 shots on the mech. It would be a little bit safer, but I would only get the 7 points as opposed to getting the kill here, which would be 8 points for the 7 shots. So if you struggle with that, feel free to just focus on the mech for consistency. I do want to point out, this run has been perfect up to this point, and I noticed for some reason that shot right there, that one right there didn't take. I don't know why. Because I took 4 shots on the mech and only three of them counted. So 1, 2, 3. You can see the counter count up on each one of those except for that one. I'm guessing what happened is like it barely grazed the feet of this mech, so it didn't count, which is a weird mechanic of these mechs. If a charge shot hits the feet of the mech, it will do absolutely nothing, and it's really frustrating. Yeah, it does seem to explode prematurely. I think it's just the hitbox of this little track here is bigger than it looks, and it caught that shot instead of letting it hit the ground. So I'm down 1 point here from what it could be. Anyways, so you take the 4 shots here, and then you shoot up under the bridge. Then after you shoot that, you can shoot this guy. I do want to say to be careful with this guy. If you're braking too much after the mech here, this guy can get ahead of you and get past here before you get the chance to shoot at him. So be careful with your braking. It usually lines up anyways. But yeah, shoot there, swing over to the left, shoot that pillar to get the +1. That pillar in the back, I've gotten to the point where I don't even think about it much at all because I'm focusing on this shot up here, because this is the hard one in this sequence. You can just take a shot there and get a +2, and it's fine. But if you want to get the +3, you have to aim directly in the middle of these 3, so you don't hit them, but you hit the building behind them. Also, you have to be careful because if you shoot too high, the hitbox of this building is actually smaller than the model of it, so it can just go through the top of that building. So there's a sweet spot to hit right there to get your +3. So you do that, and then immediately after that shot, I just throw one to the right here, roughly at this left post. This is one of those where if you're using this exact pathing, the timing just kind of lines up to where you can kind of just throw the shot and it works. You almost don't have to aim that one because it will explode at just the right distance to get all 3 of those. Okay, now we're up to the second mech. I usually get 9 hits off of this mech. It is possible to get 10. The setup for this is I look for this tree right here, and I want to shoot either at or a little bit before this tree, right down the middle of this arch right here. So shoot right there, make sure you hit the building. That one will explode at just the right distance to get a +1 on the mech. Kill the mech before it pushes down the building. That part is key. If the mech pushes down the building, you're gonna lose a lot of points for that because you can get more points by shooting straight at the building. If it's pushed over, it'll be too far forward and you won't get points for it anymore. But also, you're killing these guys behind you and the moths behind the mech off of that building as well. So you want to make sure whatever you do, try and kill that mech before it pushes the building over. After that shot, this is where the timing gets tricky, but I found it to be consistent so far with this strat. So you shoot there roughly at or before the tree, and then you shoot again as soon as that explodes, and then I break just before passing through the arch. And that setup usually works to get these 4 moths right as they're spawning in. And it's a +5 because you're hitting them and the mech at the same time. So the way I do this, I do 1, 2, break just before the arch, then let go of the break with the next shot. And then, yeah, so that's gonna, if you keep shooting at that, you're gonna keep getting points off the mechs. You're gonna eventually catch these 2 behind you, and then you wanna peel off and take a couple more shots on the ground there. The way I count this out, I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I go for the ground. And I can usually get 2 shots off of it. Another point to note is it's very helpful to start creeping up as you're taking these 7 shots on the building, because that's going to make it easier to get both of the shots on the ground. If you're flying too low here, you have to go down, then up, then down again to get your extra shots. And that just ends up being really awkward and difficult. I find it much more consistent if you start high before going for these 2. And then after you shoot that 9th shot, you wait a beat, and then you shoot up directly at that guy. The distance shot, it'll explode before it gets there. And then you want to line up for this mech right here. He starts over here, and then I want to shoot when he's about halfway to the building. Basically, you want the shot to get there right as or right before he gets to the building, and that timing pretty much always gets me the +1 I need. After I take that shot, then I start focusing on lining up with the left edge of this building in the back. If you hit this front building, you get no points, so make sure you're hitting the building in the back. And then I take 5 shots, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm holding break here. Where do I start breaking? Take 1 shot, and then I start breaking as soon as I fire the 2nd shot. And then I just hold break for the 5. After the 5th shot, I immediately hop over to here, catch these guys on the ground. You want to be careful. I found in a lot of cases, these little satellite dishes can get in the way when you're trying to shoot. I think it's this one in particular. Like if you're flying too low at this point, you can be trying to shoot at these 3, and then that one will just eat your shot and then screw up your timing. So just be careful about these satellite dishes here. Then I shoot on the ground to kill those 3. And then this shot is pretty tough. I try to hit the top right corner of this building. It will barely reach. If you're a little too far to the left, it won't kill the mech and you won't get the point. So that one's pretty tough. And then I try to shoot 1 more before the somersault. I missed it this time. And then you can somersault, and then you can hit 2 more shots at the mech during the somersault. Also, it's important to note you need to not break during this section if you plan on doing the somersault strat. Because if you break here, your break meter is going to be too low to actually get the somersault off. And then you can get to the checkpoint, fire a bomb, and do a somersault. It's counterintuitive at first, but when you start the somersault, if you're wanting to go right, you have to hold left. And then halfway through right here, you switch to holding right. It's weird and it's counterintuitive when you first start learning it, but it does start to make sense once you get used to it. So that's a 168 checkpoint. That's the best I've done so far. Here, you want to get a +3 on the left. You can use a visual cue for roughly after Falco gets out of the way. I also use kind of a music cue. It's basically the same timing with the music as your first shot of the level, but only if you're resetting from the checkpoint. But yeah, so I remember this one was kind of scuffed. Somehow I got almost all the points, but it was a bit sloppy. So here, you shoot that shot, and then you can immediately shoot to the right. You want to shoot under this guy or beside him, whichever, as long as you're not hitting him directly. And the distance shot will get the +1 there. I missed it, but you can back it up with the shot on the building. Again, with these flying saucers, it's always better if you can kill them early. I was lucky with this one, he didn't despawn, but like these 3 on the left and this one on the right, if you have to take 2 shots, there's a chance that they will despawn before they crash. Okay, next up is the Allen shot. I didn't even ever think of this until I saw Allen's recent video. And it's a really cool shot where you take a shot at the ground to get a +1 on this flying saucer on the bottom. And then because, as we've mentioned before, these guys tend to not crash immediately. And because of that, you can shoot the wreckage of that flying saucer on the bottom and get a +3 on these top 3. So you take 2 shots to get +4, which is perfect points on that. It's a really creative way of doing it, and I find it fairly low risk and somewhat consistent. Because like even if you miss that first shot, you can still hit the bottom one and get the +3. So you're not really risking much of anything by going for this. Obviously, you could lock onto these, which would give you a bit more consistency. Then here, immediately after that, I try to shoot below this guy. Obviously, I missed. But yeah, I try to shoot at the bottom of this building. And again, he falls pretty slowly, so he can kind of get in your way if you don't kill him quick enough, which we'll see in a minute. And then after that, I shoot over on the left. And I make sure to shoot above or beside him. That one's actually pretty generous if you're quick enough. Again, the timing is going to change depending on what strats you use, but with the timing I'm using, do that and then shoot there immediately and then shoot almost immediately over here. You can shoot above him and past him and it should still work. You should still get that +1. You just have to not hit him directly. Here, I don't know why I thought that shot hit. It's still way too low, but this is a viable backup strat to catch something off of the building real quick as you're going through. And then you can shoot him directly again to make sure it explodes. Because what I've had before is I kill him and he's slowly falling, and then I need to shoot a shot through the building, but because the wreckage of his ship is slowly falling, then it will eat the charge shot and get in the way for that. But this time it worked out. He exploded immediately there, and I got the shot off there. This is a perfect indicator right here. This is about where you want to shoot this next shot. What we're aiming for is the 4 moths that will spawn from behind this building. You want to shoot the shot a little bit before you go through, and then they will spawn when you pass through the building, and then the shot will catch them as they're leaving from behind the building and get a +4. Then you shoot down below this guy. You can also shoot the pillar beside him, but I find that to be a little bit slower to set up than shooting below him. So yeah, just shoot the ground below him, and then this shot is a pretty hard one to line up. As you can see, I just missed it. But what I'm trying to do here is hit this sign here that's General Pepper's face. And the hitboxes on these flying saucers are surprisingly large. So it's very difficult to get the +3 here, but you can do it with a measure of consistency. My strat for it is basically, first I aim roughly where they are, and then I tap to the right a little bit and then shoot, and that usually lines up. But again, like you can see, I went a little too far that time. I have found that you can take 2 shots and be fine. It's just the 3rd shot. That's when you start running into despawn problems. But if you get it with the 1st or 2nd shot, it usually works out. So you can take that and then get these guys on the ground. The mistake a lot of new players will make is going for these guys first and then the ones on the right, because these guys are closer to you. But as I said, the flying saucers have a habit of despawning before they crash, so you want to take those guys out as early as possible. That one crashed before he hit the ground. So there, it was on the 2nd shot. These 2 exploded immediately, and there's this guy on the bottom. You can see he crashes here, but even if he hadn't crashed here, he probably would have had enough time to hit the ground and explode. So yeah, like I said, 2nd shot is still fine on that if you can manage it. And then here, because we're not in expert mode, there's not a flying saucer in the middle to get in our way. So a simple setup I found is just do a tiny tap on the boost button, like maybe not even 1/8 of the meter, as these guys in the back are turning, like they're in the middle of their turn. Right about here is where you want to boost and then shoot at the middle. And that gets a +3 almost every time. Now here, same as with the checkpoint, somersault, hold left at the beginning, hold right in the 2nd half to get both the bomb and the lasers. Here, roughly as you're passing this hill right here, you can shoot a shot, and if it's in the middle, it'll get the +4. You can always take backup shots on the ground or on the bridge. These guys aren't too tough to deal with. And then we have the mechs, which are pretty tough to get right. I've gotten up to 12 shots, which I think this was a 12-shot one, actually. I would say if you can get 10 shots on these mechs, it's good. 11 is excellent, and 12 is almost perfect. I think the TAS gets like 13 or 14, if I remember right, but it requires good spacing and very particular braking. I found on this first mech in particular, you want to start high, because if you start low, this little hill right here can catch a lot of your shots, and also, as you're shooting at this guy, you're aiming slightly down at the ground. So you're going to be slowly coming toward the ground regardless. So if you start high, there are fewer adjustments you'll have to make on the way down. So the first shot, I don't use cues for this. I really should. You want to shoot it roughly before the bridge. Looking at this, you could probably start shooting as you're passing this tree, like passing directly over it. Yeah, that seems like a good cue actually. So watch this tree on the left, and as it goes out of your view, try to shoot as you're passing over the tree. I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots. And again, the braking is pretty particular. The way I used to do it was I just waited till like the second shot, I think, and held brake. But I found it works slightly better. You get slightly more time if you do a quarter brake with your first shot, let it go, and then re-grab the brake as you're taking your second shot, and then hold brake from there. So I got 7 shots there, and then after the 7th shot, I peel off and shoot up at this bar that this mech is holding. It's a little bit risky to go for that, I will say, because if you miss it, the shot's just going to go off into the distance, and then you're not going to be able to shoot another charge shot for a minute. So if you're not comfortable with this shot, feel free to just pull up and then go back down and take 2 shots at the ground. That's what I used to do. I just wanted to squeeze 1 extra point out of this. So I started shooting at the beam up there. Then I take 2 shots there and somersault to get 2 more. This was sloppy, as you can see. I took a lot of wing damage, but you can make this work if you somersault a little bit higher than I did. You can make it work to where you don't hit the beam. It's kind of awkward, but yeah. So expert mode, I might have to rethink my strats for this so I don't break a wing. And then here, it's pretty straightforward. You want to take the somersault. If you're in main game, you want to take the somersault here to grab this bomb. The somersault is helpful for lining these guys up, but the more important thing is the bomb in this case, because you want it for medio. And then, yeah, just shoot these guys off the water as you're flying through. Here, I intentionally took the bump on the left because I didn't want this ring, so I could farm for lives on the next attempt if I didn't get it here. Now here, I use this little hill here. There's a seam you can see in the polygons, this edge right here. And as the shadow passes over it, it will actually disappear. And I use that as my timing cue for this first bird. I line myself up slightly to the left of the peak of this hill and wait for the shadow to disappear and shoot right there. And that always gets a +1 there. And then I wait a beat. It's possible to do this too fast, so I wait a little bit. Then I swing left and shoot there because the bird in the back is moving to the left. And that gets +1 there. Here I lock on and shoot a bomb. So if you've seen the left path here, there are 4 moles in the back right before the 2 gold rings. And you can actually get points off of those while going through the waterfall. Like I said, I lock on here because you can get a +1 while they're in the ground. The charge shot won't actually kill them while they're in the ground, but you can still get +1s. Pretty much always get a +1 off of that charge shot. It's possible to get a +2, but like I said, it's kind of luck-based as far as I can tell. There's not really a consistent way to make that work. But then you also shoot a bomb with it so that as they're popping out of their molehills, the lingering hitbox of the bomb will actually kill them. So you get potentially 6 points off of those moles. I think I only got 4 here for whatever reason. I'm thinking maybe I didn't boost enough because the moles come out in response to how far you are in the level, from what I understand. So you shoot the bomb and then you boost to catch up to where you need to be to make the moles pop out as the bomb is exploding. And I didn't quite do a full boost here, so I'm thinking maybe that's why. But either way, coming into the waterfall section, I have a much better strat than I did before. I will say having a consistent setup for the birds is extremely important if you want to have good moles after. Like, the birds are annoying on their own, But what makes it really annoying is the moles are even harder, and if you're shaky on your strats for the birds, then that's going to make it harder to get good points on the moles. So I'm going to show you what I found to be almost 100% consistent. You'll see I missed a shot, so it's not 100%. I make sure I wait for the bomb to explode, because you remember your charge shot is going with that bomb. So you can't shoot a charge shot until that charge shot has exploded. So I wait for the flash of the bomb, then still wait a little bit, and then I shoot up left, and that pretty much always catches a +1 there. And then after that shot, I just aim up and take 2 shots in the middle. Again, it's hard to see because my ship is in the way, but there's 2 birds that are flying in the middle over the top, and taking 2 shots, one right after the other, pretty much catches those every time for a +1. As soon as I take that 3rd shot, I full break, and then I shoot beside this bird. Then after that one explodes, you shoot up the middle again because there's one up there. I lost a point there because I hit that bird directly. That's usually a +1. After that last bird, I wait a bit till I see this guy that Falco's chasing, and then you can shoot straight at this hill as he's passing by, and it'll catch a +1 there. Then I shoot this guy off the ground. Honestly, I think I'm going to change this strat slightly, because this guy, you can hit him while he's swooping, but at the same time, right here, I could just take a shot at the moles. And I found if I'm shooting at that mole, after this guy swoops, it'll still catch him usually. So I might just ignore this bird and go straight for the moles. And then my moles were a little bit sloppy this time, but not too bad. You can still get the idea. After I get this guy, start shooting straight at the moles. Ideally, you want to shoot between these 2 on the left, but I didn't set that up very well. Either way, while these moles are still on the ground, you can get +1s on them, and they're not dying, so you can keep shooting them for more points until they pop out of the ground and you kill them. So here, you want to do a partial break. I full braked by accident. Safety is much better at these moles than I am. So I think the 2 spots where you can get +2s, if you could shoot between these 2 moles here, you can get +2s that way. And if you shoot between these 2 moles here, you can get +2s that way. Yeah, and this was, I believe, a 10-point moles. So like I said, not great, but it was decent because there's 5 moles. If you get +1s on all the moles, that's 10 points. If you get some extra +1s, you can get 14 or probably even 15 off of these moles, but that's really hard to do. But this can be where a lot of variance in your score comes from because the moles are really, really hard to make consistent. But yeah, so here, you want to be making sure you're dodging any shots that come your way because they will be shooting at you. I think this is the best place to do it. I haven't really tried any other methods, but like coming to the right of the screen to let them come toward you. And then as they approach you, you break and start shooting at the water. I actually almost messed this up, thinking about it. Yeah, those were very close shots. That was very sloppy, but yeah, if you just break and keep spamming shots at the water, you'll probably get this. It's not that hard. Getting hit can make it a little bit more difficult, but yeah, you see how much I messed up there, and it still worked out.
Say goodnight, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin. Good night, Kevin.
Did you just... Nice job, Safety. Played the exact same sound both times. Okay, killing Falco here is just a consistency strat for Medio. He has a tendency to steal points there. You don't have to do this. I also keep Slippy alive because I can try to kill him in Medio. You don't have to do it this way. It's just my personal strats for Medio. Doesn't really matter for Corneria. All right. So that is my 327 Corneria. And more or less a tutorial on the consistency strats I use to get it.